The Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, also known as the Cilician Armenia, Kingdom of Cilician Armenia, Kingdom of Cilicia or New Armenia, was an independent principality formed during the High Middle Ages by Armenian refugees fleeing the Seljuk invasion of Armenia. Located outside of the Armenian highland and distinct from the Armenian Kingdom of Antiquity, it was centered in the Cilicia region northwest of the Gulf of Alexandretta. The kingdom had its origins in the principality founded c. 1080 by the Reuben Dynasty, an alleged offshoot of the larger Bagratid family, which at various times had held the thrones of Armenia and Georgia. Their capital was originally at Tarsus, and later became Sis. Cilicia was a strong ally of the European Crusaders, and saw itself as a bastion of Christendom in the East. It also served as a focus for Armenian nationalism and culture, since Armenia proper was under foreign occupation at the time. Cilicia's significance in Armenian history and statehood is also attested by the transfer of the seat of the Catholicos of the Armenian Apostolic Church, spiritual leader of the Armenian people, to the region. In 1198, with the crowning of Levon the Magnificent of the Reuben Dynasty, Cilician Armenia became a kingdom. In 1226, the crown was passed to rival Hattumids through Queen Zabel's second husband, Hetamai, as the Mongols conquered vast regions of Central Asia and the Middle East. Hetman succeeding Hattumid rulers sought to create an Armeno-Mongol alliance against common Muslim foes, most notably the Mamluks. In the 13th and 14th centuries, the Crusader states disintegrated and the Mongols became Islamized, leaving the Armenian kingdom without any regional allies. After relentless attacks by the Mamluks in Egypt in the 14th century, the Cilician Armenia of the Lusignan dynasty, mired in an internal religious conflict, finally fell in 1375. Commercial and military interactions with Europeans brought new Western influences to the Cilician Armenian society. Many aspects of Western European life were adopted by the nobility, including chivalry, fashions in clothing, and the use of French titles, names, and language. Moreover, the organization of the Cilician society shifted from its traditional system to become closer to Western feudalism. The European Crusaders themselves borrowed know-how, such as elements of Armenian castle building and church architecture. Cilician Armenia thrived economically, with the port of Ayas serving as a center for east-to-west trade. Early Armenian migrations to Cilicia. Cilicia under Tigranes. The Great Armenian presence in Cilicia dates back to the 1st century BC, when under Tigranes the Great, the Kingdom of Armenia expanded and conquered a vast region in the Levant. In 83 BC, the Greek aristocracy of Seleucid Syria, weakened by a bloody civil war, offered their allegiance to the ambitious Armenian king. Tigranes then conquered Phoenicia and Cilicia, effectively ending the Seleucid Empire. The southern border of his domain reached as far as Ptolemais. Many of the inhabitants of conquered cities were sent to the new metropolis of Tigran-Arkut. At its height, Tigran's Armenian Empire extended from the Pontic Alps to Mesopotamia, and from the Caspian to the Mediterranean. Tigranes invaded as far southeast as the Parthian capital of Ecbatana, located in modern-day western Iran. In 27 BC, the Roman Empire conquered Cilicia and transformed it into one of its eastern provinces. Mass Armenian migration under the Byzantine Empire. After the 395 AD partition of the Roman Empire into halves, Cilicia became incorporated into the Eastern Roman Empire, also called the Byzantine Empire. In the 6th century AD, Armenian families relocated to Byzantine territories. Many served in the Byzantine army as soldiers or as generals, and rose to prominent imperial positions. Cilicia fell to Arab invasions in the 7th century and was entirely incorporated into the Rashidun Caliphate. However, the Caliphate failed to gain a permanent foothold in Anatolia, as Cilicia was reconquered in the year 965 by Byzantine Emperor Nicephorus II. Focus. The Caliphate's occupation of Cilicia and of other areas in Asia Minor led many Armenians to seek refuge and protection further west in the Byzantine Empire, which created demographic imbalances in the region. In order to better protect their eastern territories after their reconquest, the Byzantines resorted largely to a policy of mass transfer and relocation of native populations within the empire's borders. Nicephorus thus expelled the Muslims living in Cilicia, and encouraged Christians from Syria and Armenia to settle in the region. Emperor Basil II tried to expand into Armenian Vasburakan in the east and Arab-held Syria towards the south. As a result of the Byzantine military campaigns, the Armenians spread into Cappadocia, and eastward from Cilicia into the mountainous areas of northern Syria and Mesopotamia. The formal annexation of Greater Armenia to the Byzantine Empire in 1045 and its conquest by the Seljuk Turks 19 years later caused two new waves of Armenian migration to Cilicia. The Armenians could not re-establish an independent state in their native highland after the fall of Bagratid Armenia, as it remained under foreign occupation. Following its conquest in 1045, and in the midst of Byzantine efforts to further repopulate the empire's east, the Armenian immigration into Cilicia intensified and turned into a major socio-political movement. The Armenians came to serve the Byzantines as military officers or governors, and were given control of important cities on the Byzantine Empire's eastern frontier. The Seljuks also played a significant role in the Armenian population movement into Cilicia. In 1064, the Seljuk Turks led by Alparslan made their advance towards Anatolia by capturing Ani in Byzantine-held Armenia. 7 years later, they earned a decisive victory against Byzantium by defeating Emperor Romanus IV Diogenes' army at Manzikert, north of Lake Van. Alparslan's successor, Malik Shah I, further expanded the Seljuk Empire and levied repressive taxes on the Armenian inhabitants. After Catholicos Gregory II, the Martyrophile's assistant and representative, passed of Cilicia's solicitation, the Armenians obtained a partial reprieve, but Malik's succeeding governors continued levying taxes. This led the Armenians to seek refuge in Byzantium and in Cilicia. Some Armenian leaders set themselves up as sovereign lords, while others remained, at least in name, loyal to the empire. The most successful of these early Armenian warlords was Philaretos Brachamios, a former Byzantine general who was alongside Romanus Diogenes at Manzikert. Between 1078 and 1085, Philaretos built a principality stretching from Malatia in the north to Antioch in the south, and from Cilicia in the west to Edessa in the east. He invited many Armenian nobles to settle in his territory, and gave them land and castles. But Philaretos's state began to crumble even before his death in 1090, and ultimately disintegrated into local lordships. The Reubenid dynasty. Emergence of Cilician Armenia. One of the princes who came after Philaretos' invitation was Reuben, who had close ties with the last Bagratid Armenian king, Gagik II. Reuben was alongside the Armenian ruler Gagik when he went to Constantinople upon the Byzantine emperor's request. Instead of negotiating peace, however, the king was forced to cede his Armenian lands and live in exile. Gagik was later assassinated by Greeks. In 1080, soon after this assassination, Reuben organized a band of Armenian troops and revolted against the Byzantine Empire. He was joined by many other Armenian lords and nobles. Thus, in 1080, the foundations of the independent Armenian princedom of Cilicia, and the future kingdom, were laid under Reuben's leadership. His descendants were called Reubenids. After Reuben's death in 1095, the Reubenid principality, centered around the fortresses of Bardsburg and Valka, was led by Reuben's son, Constantine I of Armenia. However, there were several other Armenian principalities both inside and beyond Cilicia, such as that of the Hetmanids. This important Armenian dynasty was founded by the former Byzantine general Ocean, and was centered in Lampron and Babyron at the southern end of the Cilician gates. The Hetmanids have always contended with the Reubenids for power and influence over Cilicia. Various Armenian lords and former generals of Philaretos were also present in Marish, Malaysia, and Edessa, the latter two being located outside of Cilicia. First Crusade. During the reign of Constantine I, the First Crusade took place. An army of Western European Christians marched through Anatolia and Cilicia on their way to Jerusalem. The Armenians in Cilicia gained powerful allies among the Frankish Crusaders, whose leader, Godfrey de Bouillon, was considered a savior for the Armenians. Constantine saw the Crusaders' arrival as a one-time opportunity to consolidate his rule of Cilicia by eliminating the remaining Byzantine strongholds in the region. With the Crusaders' help they secured Cilicia from the Byzantines and Turks, both by direct military actions in Cilicia and by establishing Crusader states in Antioch, Edessa, and Tripoli. The Armenians also helped the Crusaders, as described by Pope Gregory XIII in his Ecclesia Romana. Among the good deeds which the Armenian people has done towards the Church and the Christian world, it should especially be stressed that, in those times when the Christian princes and the warriors went to retake the Holy Land, no people or nation, with the same enthusiasm, joy and faith came to their aid as the Armenians did, who supplied the Crusaders with horses, provision and guidance. The Armenians assisted these warriors with their utter courage and loyalty during the Holy Wars. To show their appreciation to their Armenian allies, the Crusaders honored Constantine with the titles of Comes and Baron. The friendly relationship between the Armenians and Crusaders was cemented with intermarriages frequently occurring between them. For instance, Jocelyn I, Count of Edessa, married the daughter of Constantine, and Baldwin, brother of Godfrey, married Constantine's niece, daughter of his brother Taurus. The Armenians and Crusaders were part allies, part rivals for the 2 centuries to come. Armenian Byzantine and Armenian Seljuk contentions. The son of Constantine was Taurus I, who succeeded him in around 1100. During his rule, he faced both Byzantines and Seljuks, and expanded the Reubenid domain. He transferred the Cilician capital from Tarsus to Sis after having eliminated the small Byzantine garrison stationed there. In 1112, he took the castle of Silistra in order to avenge the death of the last Bagratid Armenian king, Gagik II. The assassins of the latter, 3 Byzantine brothers who governed the castle, were thus brutally killed. Eventually, there emerged a type of centralized government in the area with the rise of the Reubenid princes. During the 12th century, they were the closest thing to a ruling dynasty, and wrestled with the Byzantines for power over the region. Prince Levon I, Taurus' brother and successor, started his reign in 1129. He integrated the Cilician coastal cities to the Armenian Principality, thus consolidating Armenian commercial leadership in the region. During this period, there was continued hostility between Cilician Armenia and the Seljuk Turks, as well as occasional bickering between Armenians and the Principality of Antioch over forts located near southern Amanus. In this context, in 1137, the Byzantines under Emperor John II, who still considered Cilicia to be a Byzantine province, conquered most of the towns and cities located on the Cilician plains. They captured and imprisoned Levon in Constantinople with several other family members, including his sons Reuben and Taurus. Levon died in prison 3 years later. Reuben was blinded and killed while in prison, but Levon's second son and successor, Taurus II, escaped in 1141 and returned to Cilicia to lead the struggle with the Byzantines. Initially, he was successful in repelling Byzantine invasions, but, in 1158, he paid homage to Emperor Manuel I through a short-lived treaty. Around 1151, during Turris rule, the head of the Armenian Church transferred his see to Romkla. Reuben II, Mleh, and Reuben III, succeeded Turris in 1169, 1170, and 1175, respectively. Principality becomes a kingdom. Prince Levon II, one of Levon I's grandsons and brother of Reuben III, acceded the throne in 1187. He fought the rulers of Konya, Aleppo, and Damascus, and added new lands to Cilicia, doubling its Mediterranean coast. At the time, Saladin of Egypt defeated the Kingdom of Jerusalem, which led to the Third Crusade. Prince Levon II profited from the situation by improving relations with the Europeans. Cilician Armenia's prominence in the region is attested by letters sent in 1189 by Pope Clement III to Levon and to Catholicos Gregory IV, in which he asks Armenian military and financial assistance to the Crusaders. Thanks to the support given to Levon by the Holy Roman Emperors, he elevated the princedom's status to a kingdom. On January 6, 1199, the day Armenians celebrate Christmas, Prince Levon II was crowned with great solemnity in the Cathedral of Tarsus, in the presence of the Syrian Jacobite Patriarch, the Greek Metropolitan of Tarsus, and numerous church dignitaries and military leaders. While he was crowned by the Catholicos Gregory VI Abirad, Levon received a banner with the insignia of a lion from Archbishop Conrad of Mainz in the name of Henry VI, Holy Roman Emperor. By securing his crown, he became the first king of Armenian Cilicia as King Levon I. He became known as Levon the Magnificent, due to his numerous contributions to Cilician Armenian statehood in the political, military, and economic spheres. Levon's growing power made him a particularly important ally for the neighboring Crusader state of Antioch, which resulted in intermarriage with noble families there. But his dynastic policies revealed ambition towards the overlordship of Antioch which the Latins ultimately could not countenance. They resulted in the Antiochian Wars of Succession between Levon's grandnephew Raymond Reuben and Bohemond IV of Antioch-Tripoli. In 1219, after a failed attempt by Raymond Reuben to claim the throne, Levon's daughter Zabel was proclaimed the new ruler of Cilician Armenia and placed under the regency of Adam of Bagras. Bagras was assassinated and the regency passed to Constantine of Babyron from the Hetuma dynasty, a very influential Armenian family. In order to fend off the Seljuk threat, Constantine sought an alliance with Bohemond IV of Antioch, and the marriage of Bohemond's son Philip to Queen Zabel sealed this. However, Philip was too Latin for the Armenians' taste, as he refused to abide by the precepts of the Armenian Church. In 1224, Philip was imprisoned in Sis for stealing the crown jewels of Armenia, and after several months of confinement, he was poisoned and killed. Zabel decided to embrace a monastic life in the city of Seleucia, but she was later forced to marry Constantine's son Hetum in 1226. Hetum became co-ruler as King Hetum I.